everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're really excited to have some extremely illustrious guests with us today. My name's Yvette Adams from the Creative Collective, and in case you didn't know, I also have another company called awardshub.com, which specializes in business awards. Now, I've had a lot of fun with business awards over the years and a lot of success, and now I get a real kick out of helping other people enter them. I'd like to introduce you on the screen to Michael Gallagher from the Stevie Awards. Welcome tonight, Michael.
Hello, Yvette. Welcome. Hello from the East Coast of the USA. It's about 10:30 p.m. local time here. It's still rather chilly. Yvette was just telling me that Australians are kind of sick of your summer, and we're sort of sick of our winter. So we're getting ready to exchange weather.
Absolutely. The people in Melbourne and Sydney may not agree with my sentiment because I'm based here in Queensland, and I've literally got a bit of a fan going because I'm wearing a jacket just to keep me cool and presentable for today's session. So
I have a sweater.
But yeah, I've heard it's cold in Melbourne, but I haven't been down there for a little while. Now, we wanted to say a quick hello in person so you see what we look like, and we're going to get rid of our faces now and switch over to a slide deck and tell you all about the amazing world of business awards. So 1 second. Okay, so about now you should be able to see my screen. Please text me and let me know if you can't for any reason. It may be a slight lag. And Michael, just to test, have we still got you there on the audio?
I'm here.
Fantastic. So as promoted, we're talking to you today about what you need to know about entering business awards, and specifically one of the most prestigious business awards programs in the world, the Stevie Awards. So proudly presented by two of my companies, the Creative Collective and Awards Hub, and featuring Michael Gallagher from the Stevie Awards, as I said. So for those of you who don't know me, a little bit more about my background and how I became involved in business awards. So I've started lots of businesses over the years. I'm actually up to number 6. I need to do a small edit on that. And I've sold 2 along the way. These days, I'm fairly focused on the Creative Collective, which is a digital marketing agency based on the Sunshine Coast, but with offices in Newcastle and team all around the country. And Awards Hub, which is a business awards online portal where you can go on and find a list of business awards to enter, and it will prepare a list for you. It saves a lot of time. I'll explain that more a little bit later on. I'm also the mother of 2, and for the last 10 years, I've also had a long association with Michael and the Stevie Awards, promoting these amazing awards programs here in Australia and New Zealand. And it's been great to see lots of incredible businesses come through from Australia and New Zealand, both individuals and the organisations and people within the organisations, as well as programs and innovations, but we'd love to see more. So we want to tell you all about them. So why I started entering business awards is as a startup business. If any of you are early stage or maybe remembering back to your humble beginnings, I had 2 children, and I'm featured on screen here with my youngest. She's now 11 years old. And that was my business. It was a study of my home. I printed the Creative Collective sign. I stuck it up in laminate. I got a business card and a website, and I was in business. But I didn't have really a marketing budget because I didn't have any clients yet. So I had to find ways to get my business out there and market it on a really small shoestring of a budget. With a background in PR marketing and journalism, I totally understand the potential PR benefits of entering business awards. So I did get sort of 6 months into my business. I did get some clients. I did some good work. But by then I was looking for more. How else do I get my company out there? It's also worth mentioning that you might have picked up on my accent is a New Zealand one, though somewhat changed, some say, from 7 years spent in the UK and traveling the world. So I didn't know anyone when I came to Australia, and I certainly didn't have any business networks. And being an ex-journalist, I absolutely understood the power of having business networks. So how could I meet like-minded people that I could potentially do business with? And I was only really interested in spending money on marketing if I was pretty confident I was going to get a return on my marketing dollar, because money was pretty tight. And I guess on a fun side note, I could think of worse things to spend my marketing budget on than going out to nice dinners and getting a new frock and hanging out with really motivated, amazing business people. So I started entering them. Now, a lot of people I talk to say to me, I can't enter business awards because I haven't been in business long enough. Well, here's the thing. I was cheeky enough to enter my first business award program in just my first 6 months of business. It was called the Small Business Champions Awards here in Australia. They're still around to this day. And I couldn't believe it because I won. I won the Queensland Young Entrepreneur Award. So it just goes to show, not all awards will recognize you if you haven't been in business for a short time, but some business awards programs do have categories specifically for emerging businesses, that is early stage businesses. So just check the criteria as to whether you can or can't enter a particular awards program you might be interested in, and have a go, I guess, would be my biggest tip off that. So having won that award in 2007, some pretty amazing things happened to me. I had a lot of media coverage, including being asked to be on a television show, which was on the national TV network on a Sunday morning. That is similar to Koshi's Business Builders, if you've ever watched that show now. Wasn't called that then, but it was showcasing small businesses, their lifestyles, what their vision for their business was, and what some of their best business techniques were. So I got that. Then it's syndicated to Vodafone, the telco network website, and so on. And then it also went in Qantas in-flight TV. So pretty soon the phone started ringing, and I was asking people, how did you hear about me? And they were suggesting it was the media or the business awards and things associated. So I went, right, I've got to do more of this stuff. And I started looking for what else was out there. And that's when I discovered the Stevie Awards. And I discovered the Stevie Awards for women in business, and I entered the Asian Entrepreneur. I know New Zealanders and Australians don't always consider themselves as Asians, but we are in the Asia Pacific sort of region if you look at the world in a global context. And that image of me is me. It's actually a video clip, me going up to accept my finalist position in New York. So I didn't win that, but at that event, I met Michael, and that's who's on the call today. So now we've been talking to each other for 10 years and building the interest and entrance from this Australia and New Zealand regions for the Stevie Awards, which has been a great journey. So Michael, I'd love you to tell the audience more about yourself and why you even created the Stevie Awards.
Sure. I had been doing awards for a small company in New York City back in the early 1980s. It was one of my first real jobs out of university, and it was a very small company that put on film festivals and advertising awards and television awards. And I worked for them for 6 years and loved it. It's a very rewarding thing to organize awards programs because you get to make people very happy, and if you give someone a lovely trophy, they're your very best friend for about 5 minutes. That was in New York City, and I moved to the Washington, D.C. area exactly 30 years ago, and got into other industries for a number of years. But getting back to awards was something I always wanted to do. But I knew the world didn't need any more advertising awards or television awards. There are plenty of those already. You may recall that there were a string of major business scandals in the early years of the 21st century, especially in the USA. And having gotten an MBA at one point in the late 90s and considering myself a student of business, I looked at the business landscape and I thought it was rather unfair that the entire business world was being tarred with the same brush that had been wet by the misdeeds of a very few companies. In the USA alone, there are more than 25 million businesses, and most people get up every day and go to work with the best of intentions to do the best job they can and as honorably as they can. And I thought, well, I knew how to do an award show. I think the world needs an Oscars for business. And I decided to start one, and I started work on the Stevie Awards in early 2002, and we staged our very first ceremony in April of 2003. Our very first Stevie Awards program is the American Business Award, which is our oldest. But we now have 7 different Stevie Awards programs, 6 of which are international. The best known ones in Australia would be the International Business Awards, which is an omnibus program that has categories to recognize achievement in every facet of business, from public relations and marketing to customer service, human resources, general corporate management, corporate social responsibility, websites, apps, you name it. And that program is open to every organization around the world, and it gets several thousand nominations every year from organizations in more than 60 nations. We also have the Stevie Awards for Women in Business, which only recognizes female entrepreneurs, executives, employees, and women-run or women-started businesses. And that program is now in its 15th year. And of all the programs that we have, and I mentioned we have 7 of them, we get the most nominations actually in the Women in Business program. It strikes me that Australia has a lot of enterprising women, and it's the most distinctive things, I think, about your economy. Among the other programs we have are the Stevie Awards for Sales and Customer Service, which again, every organization worldwide can participate in. We have a 5-year-old program called the Asia Pacific Stevie Awards, which is only open to the 22 nations of the Asia Pacific region, including Australia and New Zealand. And to set that program apart, the categories are focused only on innovation in all aspects of business. So whereas in a program like the International Business Awards, an organization might be recognized for their corporate responsibility program or their financial performance over the past year. In the Asia Pacific Stevie Awards, only innovation in various aspects of business are recognized. So you see here the logos for 6 of our 7 programs. You can learn about all of them at stevieawards.com. And all of them, in general, recognize achievements over the past year. For example, we just opened 3 weeks ago the entry process for the 15th annual or 2018 International Business Awards. And that particular program will recognize achievements made since the beginning of 2017 and only through 2017. So if your organization did something great in 2014 and you're looking for recognition for that, you're not going to find it in the International Business Awards. And actually, you probably won't find it in very many business awards programs around the world. One of the most distinctive things that you need to keep in mind about awards programs is they're generally focused in any given year on a pretty narrow time frame, which is generally just the past year. So that's a brief overview of the various Stevie Awards programs.
So, Michael, I might backtrack. You were just talking about the different awards, and I thought it'd be nice to have a visual of those logos and the great trophies you can win. But let's step it back for a moment and discuss why even enter these, because maybe there's some people online or who are going to listen to the recording who are thinking, I think it's good for this, but I don't know what else. So for me, I just think there's so many benefits. You couldn't even list them all on screen, and everyone you talk to would probably say something different. Would you agree with that, Michael? Like, what do people say to you as the biggest reasons they've entered the awards that you're associated with?
Well, there are a number, and I'll enumerate some of them in a moment. But I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that awards are tools. And like any other tool, a tool is only worth what you build with it. With a hammer, you can build a mansion, or you can put it in a drawer and let it gather dust. And an award is the same thing. We have a number of people every year who win awards, and they take them back to their office and they put them on a shelf and it gathers dust and they don't do anything with it. And that's the hammer in the drawer. But smart Stevie Award winners take their award and they really they merchandise it to help build their brand, to better the relationship with their employees. It says a lot to an employee when you nominate their work for an award. Just the very act of preparing to nominate your organization or a team within your organization or your corporate website or any number of executives, just the process that you go through to research the nomination and to write it and to edit it is very valuable. What you wind up with are you wind up with very succinct and hopefully compelling stories of achievement in your organization that you can not only use as awards nominations, but you can use them in other ways to promote your businesses. As I mentioned, awards are great employee relations tools. They're brand building tools. They are networking tools. As a vet, and a lot of the Australian women who've won awards over the years, and the Stevie Awards for Women in Business can tell you, is they make a lot of great contacts if and when they come to the awards dinner in New York. They get to meet a lot of women from different countries and different industries and organizations of different sizes. And that even in the course of one evening at an awards dinner, they make great contacts that can prove to be very beneficial in their business going forward. And we have on all of our individual program websites, there's always a page that says top 10 reasons why you should enter. And I would encourage anyone to go to any of our Stevie Awards websites and view that. It lists the few things that I've mentioned here and a few others as well.
That's great. I think definitely for me, you made me think about reflection. Business awards force you to reflect on the year that's been, or whatever time period the business awards you're entering are asking of you. And sometimes you will look back and go, wow, I've kind of done way more than I expected to, or I've done this stuff, but now I'm really motivated to do this other stuff in the future. So taking that moment in time and like Michael said, preparing something compelling and succinct is a really, really great and valuable exercise. And I definitely back up what he said about the networking. I think when I went to New York, there were 400 other women, and some of those I continue to keep in contact with, whether they're strategic partners, people that you can use as a supplier, that they can use you as a supplier. There's recruitment opportunities if you're global. There's export opportunities. There really are so many things you can do, which obviously if you're a business person who understands opportunity, you'll totally get that. So a lot of people say to me, like I'm a walking textbook, what business awards programs are there and which one should I enter? And I say, oh my gosh, there are literally hundreds around the world, and they pretty much break down as follows. There's geography specific. So you could enter your local business awards, or your regional, or your national, or your international, which I guess with the Stevie Awards, we're talking international. However, there are categories which recognize you for set regions. For example, I was in the Stevie Awards, Women in Business Awards, but I was in the Asia Entrepreneur category. So it was only looking at other entrepreneurs in my region. There's, of course, industry-specific awards, and I do find in dealing with lots of business awards clients that they tend to like to stick to those. I guess they feel comfortable with their industry peers, but, you know, if you've got a really great business or a really great innovation or really great staff, what's stopping you being recognized internationally? Don't hold yourself back and just look at the industry-specific awards. I would encourage you to take it a step further. There are awards for age specific, so people under 35, under 30, 40, under 40, and all these sorts of titles. So while age is on your side, you could certainly look to enter business awards and be recognized for your business acumen for your young years, which was definitely a strategy I employed, and business functions as well. So with some of these programs that the Stevie Awards has out, like the Stevie Awards for Great Employers, they're specifically recognizing some HR best practice. So they're good ones to look at. In IT in Australia, we have things like the I Awards, which I was successful in winning the ICT Woman of the Year in 2013. So that was great for me to network and get showcased amongst my peers in the IT industry. So it really comes back to what do you want to be recognized for? Michael, what would you have to add to that? Because we were just talking about that very topic right before we went live, weren't we?
Well, it relates to the question we are asked most often by people who are interested in our awards programs. The question we get most often is, you know, you have a lot of categories. Which category should we enter? And the answer to that is, well, what do you want to be recognized for? I mentioned earlier that all our awards are pretty much about a specific time frame, you know, generally the past year. So just as we would ask a potential entrant, what do you want to be recognized for that you've accomplished over the past year? And if you can answer that question, we can recommend some appropriate categories. The same goes for awards programs. And we have awards we have the Stevie Awards for Great Employers, which Yvette mentioned, which is just has a lot of different HR-related categories. We have the Stevie Awards for Sales and Customer Service, which we have a lot of different customer service and sales and business development-related categories for achievement in those realms over the past year. So just as you would look at categories, I would say you look at awards programs the same way. If your organization has done a lot of innovative and effective things over the past year in developing employee onboarding programs or training programs or benefits programs, then you're going to want to look at HR-related awards programs and HR-related categories, just as an example.
Absolutely. And I get asked that question too. And there are a lot of categories in the Stevie Awards, but if you have given it some thought about what you want to be recognized for, you can certainly slim it down and then focus on in there. So I skipped ahead again because I wanted to make the point also that once you say, okay, I'm going to enter business awards, how do you even enter them? You could go to good old Google and type in something like Business Awards Australia or Business Awards IT or Business Awards your region, and it's going to pull up thousands of results. In fact, millions, as you can see on this one, 10.8 million results. So that's going to be a pretty big job to click onto each website, to get across it, to work out the categories, and to make matters worse, they often update them. Some awards programs start and don't continue. Michael's been a really long time in the market, so there's certainly a sustainable and astute sort of business awards program, whereas others sort of come and go. And then others update their categories as well. So that's one way to find them. But that's what we've done with Awards Hub, is you can go to awardshub.com and just for $29, go and download a custom list by giving us your criteria and saying, if you really don't know what to enter, this is my location, this is my gender, this is my age, this is my industry, and it will query a database of lots and lots of awards. And conversely, if you're organizing a business awards program and you'd like to get listed, simply go to submit and submit it, and we'll check it over. Provided everything's A-OK, we'll add it to the list and you'll get that exposure on the site completely for free. So hopefully that's a really good tool. For $29 is going to save you an awful lot of time. So top tips on entering and winning business awards. Number one is just back yourself and have a go. Michael, how many half-written business awards do you think are sitting on hard drives out there that never quite got there?
Quite a lot, and we can track that even on our own system, because back in 2002, when I sat down with a web developer and we started to plan the Stevie Awards website, and he said to me, well, how do you want it to work? And I said, well, I sort of want it to be like Amazon.com, where you can start to write a bunch of nominations and throw them in your shopping cart, and then you can edit your shopping cart, and then at some point decide you want to check out. And it sort of works like that, where organizations can begin to create nominations and return to them and edit them as many times as they want. And then when they're ready, they can submit them. And there are quite a lot of nominations that get half prepared or a quarter prepared that never get finished and submitted. We mentioned earlier that one of the benefits of entering awards is that it forces you to rationalize what your achievements have been over the past year. It forces you to think about how to express those achievements in a succinct way, in a compelling way that people can understand. And the larger your organization, the harder it is to do that, because there are more stories to be told within an organization, and no one's really in charge of collecting those stories and making sense of them. And I tell people all the time, and people find this hard to believe, but most companies are pretty bad at describing what it is they do, and they're even worse at describing what it is they've achieved within a narrow time frame. And that's, we see that reflected in the number of abandoned nominations. It's kind of hard to do. And when organizations say to us, we'd love to nominate ourselves for a Stevie Award, but we just don't have the time to kind of sit down and put the story together and write it. And one of the things we recommend is, there are people who specialize in doing that. There are people who specialize in research and writing awards nominations, and some of them are, they literally just specialize in that. But most major public relations agencies, or even independent public relations pros, have a lot of experience in preparing and and writing nominations. So I would say that if you don't have the time, or if it seems pretty daunting, but it's something you definitely want to do, contact us at the Stevie Awards or contact Yvette for a referral to someone who might be able to help you do that.
Absolutely. So that we were going to invite Matt Barry onto the session, because Matt has actually entered quite a few Stevie Awards and had some good success with those as well. So I understand he's waiting in the wings. So your screen's going to go a little strange just for a moment while I invite him on here. So Matt, if you can hear me, I'm inviting you onto the screen, and then we're going to have a little chat. So hopefully you're going to come live in just 1 second. And sorry about the screen in the meantime, it's make you a little car sick. Okay, Matt has been invited on screen, and it'll probably just take a moment to connect. Not sure where in the world he's joining us from today. He does travel a fair bit. And here he is. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I'm actually going to hand you over to Michael to have a bit of a chat, because, Michael, you're more familiar with all the different Stevie Awards that Matt has entered and had success with. Would that be okay?
Sure, that's fine. Can you hear me, Matt?
I can.
How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I think, when Yvette and I talked about doing this webinar, and I suggested that maybe we invite a major Australian winner of Stevie Awards to participate in this, the first company that came to mind was Freelancer, because you've won more Stevie Awards over the years than any other Australian organization, so congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Obviously, your organization participates on a pretty regular basis in a number of our different Stevie Awards programs, including the International Business Awards and the Asia Pacific Stevie Awards. Maybe you can tell the folks who are listening in why you believe that's been a smart thing for Freelancer over the years, and some of the benefits you've seen from your people winning Stevie Awards.
Things have just frozen a bit at my end. I'm not sure if everyone else is.
Matt's frozen on my end as well.
Just when he was going to speak. That's unfortunate. Hopefully his internet connection will come back to life. Another option is to close him out and re-invite him, but we were just about to get things back. All good at my end too, Jen said. So you're not seeing him speak and I'm not seeing him speak, but yes.
No, I'm seeing a frozen screen.
Okay. Works fine for me. So Matt, you're frozen for Michael and I. I wonder if I should close you out, re-invite you. Waiting for Matt to reconnect. Let's just try this again. I'm going to close you out and re-invite you, because you were just about to give us some great insights into business awards from your perspective. Okay, he has been re-invited and hopefully he'll just come back. There he is.
Yeah.
Working now.
Okay, great. So we started Freelancer about 2009, and really from the first in the first couple of years, we decided to enter a number of business awards, primarily with the purpose of trying to raise the profile of the business. Obviously, just starting out and being a very small business at the time, you kind of do everything you can to kind of raise your profile. And the great thing about entering awards is it's very inexpensive to do so. And if you win, that gives you some good recognition and good credibility that perhaps that other media might write about, or it's something you can talk about and email your users to kind of build their confidence in your business and so forth. So, we've been entering awards for quite a number of years. We participate in the Stevie Awards quite regularly. I mean, we're up the scale and the size now, actually, right? We have full-time people in marketing and communications whose job really is to find great events for us to enter and really handle the application process and the submissions. And by the way, if you ever need someone to write an application form for you, you can always hire freelancers on Freelancer to do it. Really inexpensive. One way I could do a bit of self-promotion here. But we've been really happy with the results. We've also participated in the Gala Award, which I think last time they went was in Rome, from memory. and the people that went said that there was great networking there, meeting all sorts of other leaders of various industries. So that's also a great thing to do. But yeah, I mean, it's all about building a brand, getting the voice out there. It's also good for the teams who, I mean, because there are such a large number of awards, and you can enter for a whole variety of different things. So, we enter our app in the mobile app awards, the list in the Stevies. We enter our communications team and so forth. And, it's great recognition for the individual teams in your company when they win a specific award for their particular team or a particular product that they are in charge of. So that's great for morale, confidence building. Really the whole, you can see it. I run four companies here at Freelancer now. You can see it when some of the smaller companies will win an award. Everyone gets really, really excited. They really, it builds a whole bunch of momentum around and energy in that particular organization. So, overall, I think it's a great thing. And the other trick is that, once you start winning awards, it becomes easier and easier and easier when other awards at other venues as well. You kind of get a bit of a role, and then all of a sudden you'll find yourself getting nominated in all sorts of other awards that are unrelated to the ones you've already previously entered, just because the judges and so forth, the organisers are always looking for good quality companies to enter. So I mean, I think it's been a great experience, and so far, and yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. So I know you're on a bit of a time pressure, so I might encourage the audience to ask Matt those questions now, if you have any for him. Maybe just pop them in the text area, and he should see those and we can read them out too. Pretty awesome opportunity he's offered up, so don't hold back. But if there's nothing forthcoming, we'll keep going and telling you some more about business awards and hopefully get you really fired up to go do some. There's people online, but they're very quiet, and I don't know, not feeling like asking questions right now. They'll probably think of them straight after you log off, I bet.
Sure.
Anything else you want to ask, Michael?
Yeah, Matt, what would you, having been part of the Stevie Awards for 10 years now, what would you say is the number one benefit to Freelancer of participating in awards programs and then winning in programs? Because participating, there are certain benefits, as I mentioned earlier, to participating. One is that you sort of fine-tune your ability to tell your company's story. Just by nominating your employees in awards, there's a benefit associated with that. And then there are brand building and other benefits associated with actually winning. What do you think has been the most beneficial thing? Not just even for winning Stevie Awards, just for winning awards in general over the past 10 years.
I think it's hard to define one thing, because there actually are multiple benefits. I mean, definitely recognition and credibility is a big one, particularly when you're a small company and you're starting out. As really winning awards at the very beginning of your company's life, or it really does help you kind of lift the prominence of your company above the pack a lot. So I find that it was hugely beneficial, particularly in the early days of Freelancer. But now I think that what's happened is that's kind of transformed a little bit, because we're a larger company now. A lot of it is really around getting particular recognition around a new product that we may be offering, or a new service, or a new offering, or even just a team, right? So I mentioned before that our communications team, I think, won gold last year, and that for the team is really good for building morale and building energy and excitement within the organization. So I think it kind of transforms over time. At the beginning, it's just really about standing out from the pack and really promoting your business when you're small. And I think that then later on, it's for particular product offerings or new things that you're doing, new initiatives, and the teams. And I also noticed that there's a question now from Jen about how long does the average award application take? I know the Telstra awards are particularly intensive. It does actually depend on the different awards. Some are actually fairly brief and straightforward to fill out, where it might take you maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes to fill out. Some require you to articulate your vision and the mission of your company and so forth in a very concise manner. And there's a lot of people who run companies, or a lot of companies that don't really have their mission statements and their value statements and the propositions really thought out well. So it's actually probably a very good exercise for you to do anyway if you don't have that pre-prepared. But then there are some awards which are extremely long and extremely detailed. One that came to mind was the Ernst & Young Awards, which I made a joke. You should kind of be Auditor of the Year awards, because the documentation literally was so thick they had to send someone out to your office to help you fill it in, because I think the conversion rate of people actually filling in the documentation, it went crazy. And I think, for whatever reason, the questionnaire is detailed, but it is worth the time and energy and effort. Once you start applying for one award for your company, the marginal cost to kind of try another award with a different group is a lot less, because you already have an application form filled out, and the questions tend to be fairly similar if you just talk about the company as a whole. But yeah, I mean, it just it's worth the effort for sure.
I can back you up there, Jen, and that I've done both the business awards and the business women, and they indicate about 20 to 30 hours. I've done it about right. They really are quite time consuming, but as Matt also says, depends how organized you are. If you've got all that stuff ready to go, it could be copy and paste, and you're going to fast track it. So, and if it's too arduous, as Michael says, get some help with it, or from freelancer.com even, as Matt says. So there's lots of options to get the job done, and it's well worth doing. Yep. Well, I think we've got enough from you, Matt. So any last words, I guess, overall you'd encourage, I presume, businesses here in Australia to enter business awards, and any final tips and tricks for them? Well, the final thing is they look great in a trophy cabinet at the front of the office, right? So when people come in, you have all the awards lined up, and the Stevie Awards look fantastic. You've got the little gold, silver, and bronze men all lined up. It's always impressive if someone comes in and sees all the awards. So that's the added benefit, I guess, at the end. Must have a little bit of a metal army there from your Stevie Awards entries, I would imagine. At the actual trophy cabinet's made of glass, and the glass is bending. So we're a bit worried that people smash the cabinet. So we'll have to figure that out somehow. Yeah, you might have to get someone to build you one. Yeah. On freelancer. Thank you so much for your time. I'll let you go because I know you're really busy. You, fantastic. Right, thanks for having me. Yeah. But rest of the audience, don't leave us because we've got more tips for you, and we're just going to switch over to sharing screen a little more with a few final tips, and then you can also ask Michael any questions you may have. So you should be able to see my screen again there, and we can go back to the presentation. Okay, so it might be helpful to delve into as well the process of entering business awards. Now, this will very much vary from program to program, but as a general rule, there's a few sort of things that will happen. First up, as we've been talking about, you need to prepare your business award submission, and you have to decide to DIY, do it yourself, or get help. And you might get halfway through doing it yourself and then decide to get help. I get a lot of those last-minute help me calls. I prefer it when there is a long lead-in and we can do a good job than when we're right on deadline, just as a disclaimer. Then you need to submit the business award submission, of course, by the date and in the format it's required. In the last few years, there's been a massive move towards sending in online entries, which is great because then you don't have to compete with people who have full graphic design teams and do all that extra time in graphic design. It's literally write it up. I recommend to do it in Google Doc or Word where you can totally spell check it and check your word count, because often you are subject to word count per question or for the overall entry, and then you need to submit it. Some awards programs have a fee, so make sure you identify that and have the company credit card ready to go rather than get to that and right on deadline and go, oh my gosh, I need a credit card and I don't have one, and all that kind of stuff. It is quite common to pay a fee, I guess, for the admin that's involved in judges and administrating the entire awards program. And on that, the fees for the Stevie Awards vary per program and per category, don't they, Michael? They do. Yeah.
We even have some free categories. You mentioned earlier that there's no reason even a startup can't nominate themselves for an award. We have startup categories in a number of our awards programs, and we don't charge an entry fee for startups.
That's nice. And another great feature of Stevie Awards is that often the earlier you get your submission in, the early bird prices apply. The later you leave it, the more you'll be penalised. So get organised early and you won't have to pay those extra fees. Thereafter, you'll get notified that you're a finalist. In some awards programs, it might be restricted to just a handful of finalists. And in other awards programs, there's really a very long list. Sometimes there's a long list in certain categories and not in others. You'd have to ask the awards program organisers as to why that might be. That depends on their criteria. Finally, there may be an interview process, which might be on the in-person or in phone. I know I've had to drive down to Brisbane to do in-person interviews for Telstra Awards. I have had to do interviews on the phone because I just couldn't make a location on a set day and time. And I've always been, assured that it would not impact on my entry. And it hasn't, because some of those I have still been successful in winning. But in the case of the Stevie Awards, you'll breathe a sigh of relief. There is no interview process. Do you want to explain, Michael, how the judging works for Stevie Awards and why there's no interview process?
Sure. We all of our judging is done online with very few exceptions. We do have some publication categories in the International Business Awards where nominees send in hard copy publications, and in those cases, we do have an offline judging session, usually in Washington, D.C. In July, judges sit around a table and review and rate annual reports and marketing brochures and other types of publications. But otherwise, all of the judging is done online, and that enables us to recruit judges worldwide. And because the judging is done online, it can be done anytime, day or night, during the judging window. For example, right now we're in the middle of judging for our Asia Pacific Stevie Awards, even though we're still accepting entries for that particular program through April 11. But we've had judges working on the nominations already submitted for the past month. And they're all over the world. They're in Australia, they're in China, they're in Japan, they're in Korea, they're in the Philippines. They're all over the Asia Pacific region and other parts of the world as well. And whenever they have a few minutes during the generally 6 week to 8 week period of the judging, they can log into the secure judging system using the username and password we've given them. And they can read and they can rate and comment on the nominations we've assigned to them in specific categories. Our judging is performed by members of juries, and there are anywhere from 5 to 13 juries in a particular awards program, depending on its size and the number of categories. For example, in the International Business Awards this year, we'll probably have 13 juries, each focused on a main category group, such as public relations or marketing or management and entrepreneurship. And they will review and rate all of the nominations in those categories. We do have the ability to assign only specific categories to a judge so that they can't see nominations in other categories. That enables someone to be both an entrant and a judge. And very often, people who enter the awards also want to be a judge, and they can do that. We just don't assign them categories in which they've submitted nominations. We assign them other categories. Our system automatically averages the scores of all the judges. We determine the finalists and the Stevie Award winners based on those average scores. And then once the winners are announced, we expose the judges' comments to the nominees. So every nominee, whether they win or not, gets to see all of the judges' comments about their nominations, both pro and con, and they can use those constructive comments however they'd like. And we do require the judges to make a short comment about every nomination that they review, and we ask them to make it a constructive comment. And we have two people who do nothing but recruit and manage judges. And one of the things that one of them does every day is review the prior day's judges' scores and comments. We want to make sure that a judge is acting the way that we need them to, that when they're making comments that they're not making derogatory comments about nominations that aren't constructive and aren't helpful, because what we find is that most nominees, they want constructive comments about both their organization and the achievements portrayed, and about the nominations themselves, how well they're written, how well they're constructed. They like to get pointers from the judges on what could be better in future nominations. And to their credit, most of the people who volunteer to be Stevie Award judges, or who we invite to be Stevie Award judges, do take it quite seriously and do a really good job of providing feedback to the nominees. When I started the Stevie Awards, I designed this particular judging process on purpose, meaning that I did not want to have a consensus judging system, which I don't like. Consensus judging is when judges sit around a table and review nominations and discuss them and try to come to consensus as to who the winners will be. I don't like that judging because generally in that setting, the loudest, most insistent voice wins the argument. And I wanted to design a judging system where every judge has the same weight in determining who the winners are. And with our system that enables judges to score, to review, rate, and score nominations on their own without the influence of other judges, we have that impartial system that doesn't overly weight the opinion of one or two people in a room. Even when we gather judges in a room to judge publication nominations for the International Business Awards, there's no discussion about the quality of the nominations. Each judge simply reviews and rates the publications on their own score sheet without discussion. So we think our judging system is the fairest. And one of the things that you can look at when you evaluate business awards programs that you might want to participate in is how is the judging system structured? It's structured like ours, where individual judges' biases are minimized, or do they have a consensus judging system where the opinions of one or two people maybe determine who all the winners are, because that tends to happen when you put 5-10 people in a room. The loudest voices tend to win the argument. So that's I've probably taken 5 more minutes than I should have to describe our judging system, but I think you should have a pretty good overview right now of how Stevie Awards judging works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really valuable too for just people to know what goes on behind the scenes. And I have to say, having been a person involved in awards, I really appreciate the awards programs that do give that constructive feedback, because, it can be a lonely journey in business or at the top sometimes leading a team. And it's really valuable to get people who have maybe been there, done that, and had different experiences to give you the feedback on how they suggest you do things differently to win awards or run your business better. I mean, they're not telling you what to do, but they might be saying you're weak in this area. So it gives you cause to maybe put some attention on that area of your business. The final step after the interview and or judging process is to obviously attend award ceremonies. Almost all of them, you don't know if you're going to win or not. I have been to one where I did know I was going to win, and that was really weird. I didn't really like it, because what are you supposed to do? Clap your hands on your face and go, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised when you find out you've won. It was a strange setup, and I won't name that award ceremony, but they do exist out there. But in most cases, it's a complete surprise. Whether you're a winner or not, you've done really well to be there. And some of you might even like to just attend awards ceremonies just to get a feel for the whole thing, who enters, who's there, make those connections anyway. I mean, Michael, certainly people who aren't finalists or winners can go along to any of the Stevie Awards events, can't they?
They can, but we tend not to get many people who are not associated with an award or a nominee coming, because it does cost typically a couple of $100s to buy a ticket to not just a Stevie Award event, but most award events. So I would say most award shows don't get a lot of disinterested observers coming. I would recommend to anyone listening today, who wants to get an experience of an awards show before you become an entrant is become a judge. You'll get to see a lot of nominations from organizations across Australia or across the region, across the world. You'll get a sense of what a good nomination looks like and what a bad one looks like, and you'll get an experience of the judging system of that particular awards program, so that if you decide to enter, you know how your nomination will be evaluated. Most awards programs have a combination of inviting judges and having a judge application system, and we have both. It's our tradition to invite prior year's Stevie Award winners to be among the current year's judges. We also have an application form on all of our awards program websites where anyone can apply to be a judge. The great majority of the applications we get are from accomplished professionals who we're most happy to find a role for them in the judging process. And because we have so many categories, we can generally find some category group for just about any professional who wants to be a judge to participate in. So I would say if you want to learn the most about an awards program before becoming an entrant, is volunteer to be a judge.
That's a great idea, Michael, and it'd be great for some PR communications professionals to take that up, or experienced business people, as you say. So I'm conscious of time. We have been, time's just whizzing by because Michael and I love talking business awards any day of the week. And we have kind of covered this already, so I'll cover it really quickly. On the question of should I do it myself or should I get help, what caliber of writing, what skills are really needed. Michael's already mentioned it, but I would say if you've got the time but not the money, well, you're pretty much going to have to do it yourself, aren't you? Maybe you're in startup phase and every dollar counts, then, just give it a go yourself. If you do have the money but you're really short on time, then you should totally outsource it. I think a lot of savvy business owners who have come to be successful have realized that outsourcing things that they don't have time for or are not good at is definitely the way to leverage their time and get more done and get better results. Another consideration is, does writing come easily to you? I'm blessed that writing does come easily to me, but I can tell you that my maths really sucks at times. So I'm lucky that's a strength of mine. Maybe it's a strength of yours too, in which case maybe write it. If, writing just doesn't, spelling, stringing words together, or even just talking about yourself is difficult, then maybe get help. Design skills are needed in some awards programs, not the Stevies. So that's something to think about. And I guess if you are looking to get help, or whether you're looking to do it yourself, for me, a good business awards application is combining business writing, which is fact-based, evidence-based, with creativity. Because I always feel a little bit sorry for these judges who are reading dozens, if not hundreds of entries and thinking if everyone's talking in the same boring business speak, are they enjoying the reading and are they engaged and are they therefore going to have a good positive sentiment towards the judging. So, it can't just be someone who talks in fluffy writing and doesn't have that business acumen and the right wording for your industry and evidence built into that application. But I think it also can't be so dry that it's dead boring to read. There's no enthusiasm. There's no excitement. It's hard for the judge to comprehend because maybe it's even too technical. So watch out for that as well. And it's just articulating your story. And sometimes on word counts, as Michael has said, there's so many stories to tell. Which part of you being awesome do you communicate? So working out to how to get a lot of information across in a succinct manner is a real skill. And that is definitely something when I've worked on a lot of business awards applications for myself and other people that I've had to be really mindful of. Some of them will say, yeah, but you didn't talk about, and I'll say, yeah, but word count, remember, we've only got 500 words to play with here. So what do you want me to lose to insert that bit you've just said? And then they usually say, okay, I understand now. Michael, do you have anything else to add to this discussion of DIY or get help?
I don't. There's the issue of writing, and a lot of people, and I think it's one of the reasons that some nominations in our system get abandoned is people struggle with how to tell the story in a compelling way, because that's really what it comes down to. People respond to stories, Not every story is romantic, not every story is dramatic, but every story can be compelling if it's told in the right way. And even if you're not a great writer, imagine yourself in an elevator and you've got 2 minutes to get to your floor, and somebody asks you what is your company does, and you want to just describe what you've done over the past year in an exciting way. Think about how would you respond to that question in an elevator. If you can phrase that in a couple of sentences in a compelling way, you've got the first few sentences of an award nomination. So it's really about storytelling and taking the quotidian things that you do in your organization every day that may be innovative or noteworthy in other ways. But how do you tell that story to make a disinterested person stand up and say, well, that's something.
Absolutely, that's a good point. Having something that is a really good grab of attention right from the get-go. So making sure that that first para or elevator speech is really good in there. Look, let's talk about some reasons quickly people talk themselves out of entering awards, because sometimes people listen to everything Michael and I have talked about so far on this webinar and they go, yes, but. So all the excuses come out. One is I haven't been in business long enough. So that one I think I've already quashed right at the start, because as I let you know, I entered within 6 months. And as Michael's let you know, there are startup, different categories. So that is not an excuse. You can totally enter it. Another one I hear a lot is I'll wait until next year when this or that or the other thing is done in my business, when my team gets bigger, when my turnover is bigger, when I move into my new premises, when our new product is out, whatever the excuse is, there's always going to be something to do in business, and there's really no time like the present. I mean, this is your call. If you have some really huge thing happening next year, or you really are too busy this year and next year is going to be better for you, then maybe you've got reason to do that. But, couldn't it be a good idea to perhaps do it this year and then even improve on it next year and gain experience and all these other benefits through the process? I guess you need to be the judge of that. Some people say when Michael or myself suggest to other people you can always get help if you're not getting it done or if this isn't your skill, I usually go back to them, well, do CEOs always write their own annual reports, and do all politicians write their own speeches? The answer is no. It's perfectly okay to get someone to help you with the narrative of your business awards application. It's key that you can stand behind the words on that page. So if I was to work with you on a business awards application, the very first thing I would do is interview you. And then once I've interviewed you, go and gather information from your website and other marketing materials. And then you would review it. So you would review it for accuracy and that it's the language you would use. I've portrayed you correctly in a way that you want to be portrayed. So you have complete buy-in. And at that point, then if you go off and submit and there's an interview process, you will be able to be authentic and have similar, I guess, points to make and wording to use as the application. So as long as you approve the final submission and be able to back that up in any interviews or speeches, as the screen says, it's totally fine to use other people to help you do them. Another reason people talk themselves out of entering the Stevie Awards or indeed any other awards is, as I said earlier, I'll just stick to my local or industry award. You can start there as a strategy and then go bigger. So some people do what I call drop in the water effect. They start local, then they go to regional, then they go to industry or international, or you can just shoot for the stars right from the start. There's nothing stopping you, even if it's your absolute first application, entering one of the global Stevie Awards programs. So I guess it's kind of a boldness or a confidence. And I had that thing up earlier. I don't know if you're familiar with the saying, Michael, tall poppies, but we talk about that here in Australia and New Zealand. People are too humble for their own good sometimes, and they don't want to stand up and be proud and share their message because they fear getting cut down, which unfortunately does happen occasionally. Have you heard of that saying before? Tall poppies?
Have I heard of it?
Yeah.
I have not, but I've heard similar stories. We have Yvette's counterpart in the United Kingdom is a woman named Fiona Brown. She's our marketing representative there, and she told me a story several years ago. She went to a gathering of about 500 British women entrepreneurs, and there was a seminar about something or the other. And at the end of the event, the MC said, "Okay, now is the time when you get to share your story about what your organization does." And she asked for a show of hands who would like to come up on stage and talk about what their company does. And she said that one woman raised her hand. And I said, well, if this were the United States, all 500 hands would be up, because that is our culture here in the U.S., where you have to stand up and tell people your story. You can't assume that people know it. So I understand that every culture is different, and in some countries it may be seen as bragging or speaking above one's station if one stands up on stage. But in business, if a tree falls in the forest and you don't tell people it's fallen, believe me, no one hears it.
Yeah, we've got to get over that, and there's lots of discussion about how we all need to support one another and encourage each other to go forward. This is another one I hear a lot. They say, I haven't done enough. I've, only, turned over this much, or I've only got 3 staff, or I've only got 1 product, or whatever the reason might be. On that, I usually say, when I won the Telstra Businesswoman's Award in 2010 for Queensland, my turnover, I'm going to be really candid here, was only about 300,000, and I was operating from home with 5 staff out of a garage. So it wasn't, any big corporate office. It wasn't a big team. It wasn't a big turnover. But for some reason, they must have loved my story. Looking back, I think it was the fact that I'd been such an early adopter of cloud software and technology, and was using them in really innovative ways. And I guess doing business like everybody does business now, but that was 8 years ago. So don't say you haven't done enough or put up those barriers either. Everybody has a story. You might have done more than you realize against your counterparts, and you've just simply got to be in to win. Some people, this is a little bit of the tall poppies culture again, say, I don't want to do it because I don't like the limelight. I would be terrified of standing on stage and talking about my business or about myself. On that, I say, that's cool, get a spokesperson. And Michael, I think I've even seen you do it at awards where you sort of interview them or just get a picture and move them on, and sometimes a speech is not required, right?
Well, very few people. We invite every winner who comes on stage to speak for 20 to 30 seconds. It's usually about 30 seconds. And, there's not much you can say in 30 seconds, although women tend to give much better short speeches than men do. But generally, once winners come off stage, we take them to a videographer, an interviewer, or we ask them a couple of questions about, what does it mean to win a Stevie Award, and how do they think winning a Stevie Award will help them. And, we use those videos in our promotion, but we also make them available to the winners as a tool that they can use. I mentioned one of the first things I said today was that awards are tools. And we like to give our winners multiple tools that they can use. And coming to the awards dinner and Stevie Awards programs is an option. Attendance is never associated with winning. Only about half of our winners ever come to the dinner, and that's fine. If they don't come, we'll send them their award afterward. But among the benefits of coming is that we'll take photographs of you on stage getting your award, and we give you those photographs for free, and you can use them however you'd like. We videotape you receiving your award on stage. We give you the videotape. You can use it however you'd like. Those interviews that we perform with winners as they come off the stage, we give you the interview. You can use it however you'd like. So, we give you the tools, but you have to use the tools for them to be worth something.
Yeah. And I think everybody, even if they're quite a small business, would have someone that they could get up to speak if you were absolutely terrified. So I know my business partner, Katrina, out of Newcastle, really doesn't like big audiences and public speaking. So usually I get to do it because I'm a little bit more confident on it, but doesn't mean that she's any less valuable, and she's very, a huge part of the business and does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. She just happens to not like standing in front of people in big crowds. So find someone, if you're like Katrina and you don't like doing it, who's happy to be a spokesperson. We've talked a little bit about this, but just to quickly cover it as well, how much work is involved? That was Jen's question. I think Stevie Awards are probably some of the most succinct awards programs available, so it might make you even more attracted to them. Michael, there's different requirements for different programs and categories, but generally speaking, most categories require still 500 words on your past year of achievements. Is that correct? And some supplementary income? Not income.
It's generally anywhere from 500 to 650 words. Again, usually about achievements over a specific period, generally the past year. We do in some of our programs have lifetime achievement categories, and in those ones you can talk about what you've done or achieved or over your entire lifetime, but that's pretty rare. We do have media categories for websites and apps and brochures and videos, and those require less of an essay, generally up to 200 words describing the work's purpose and results to date. And those are great categories to enter for young companies. When you mentioned, Yvette, some companies said, well, we haven't really done much yet. Well, one of the first things companies do when they form is create a website. Even if you don't have much turnover yet, if you've got a great website, we have website categories. There are lots of different awards for websites. Maybe you can win an award just for your website when you don't have much of a turnover yet, and maybe you don't even have any employees yet. So there are plenty of categories that very young organizations can enter, as well as more established ones.
Yeah, so I guess look into the award you're considering entering, and maybe as part of your award strategy, if you're looking for ones that aren't too much work, you might go the way of ones which are less input, and as Michael says, maybe into the website categories and things like that. Or I would say it'd be still more beneficial though to enter awards which are in line with what you want to be known for, who you want to be in front of, and what your business is really all about. So consider that too. Matt touched on this, which is the first application is always the hardest. If you don't have a strong company vision, mission, overview, bios, things like that, getting your first one together can be hard work. It's the woman on the screen looking like she's screaming. But once you've got that, you should be able to use some of that copy in other awards programs. Although always check the word count, always check the criteria, and always closely align with what they're asking you with what you're providing. I, in judging some business awards, have seen people just stuff words into an answer because they wanted to tell that thing when it really wasn't answering the question at all. Or they've obviously breezed over the question but missed the real essence of it. So when I'm reviewing an awards application, I'll often underline, highlight those keywords, and I'll often, a little technique, use those same words in the response. So there is no doubt that I have read the criteria and I'm answering it explicitly. You've got to, I'm really conscious of time because we're a little bit over, but other tips, commit to doing it a fair way out. As Michael said, he sees lots of half-written things on hard drives. So note the key dates, try and get I guess a feeling of what's involved, and then block out time in your diary as if you're going to work on it, attend any interviews, and attend, the actual award ceremonies. Some will require you to enter even on a regional, state, and national level as well, if you keep going right up. So enter them as if you're going to go all the way, and then review the criteria. So what do you need to get in place, and start getting help. If there's other people in your team who can start preparing the financials you need, or talking to your accountant or bookkeeper, your charity, if I've got to get a picture with them, or us giving them a check, press coverage, collating that, or asking your marketing department, etc. The sooner you get all that together, the better place you're going to be for entering awards. It's also not about cliches, so think about when you're doing an awards application, what makes you unique and better. I love saying that there's some things you just can't call yourself. Like, we have great customer service. I don't think that's going to win you one of the sales and customer service awards. You need to evidence how. So what makes you unique and better than everybody else's customer service if everybody's essentially saying the same thing? And you can state the facts that no one can argue with, such as we offer a full money back guarantee, or all of our fleet are equipped with state-of-the-art technology, or we have over 1,000 customers across Australia. These are facts that no one can argue with. They're not saying we're reliable, we have great customer service. People could argue with those statements and say, you know what, I didn't have a great experience with you, but facts are much better things to use. And then the other tip is whatever statement you make, evidence it. So you can see some examples on the screen of a statement of where to sell a year in business in 2017. well, that's nice, a judge would say, but what does that mean? Better would be we have had a stellar year in business in 2017 with an increased turnover and growth, so that's better. But even better would be metrics. So we've achieved a 20% year-on-year increase turnover since our founding in 2007, and to have doubled our staff. So they're actual evidence on the statements you're making, and they're really showing that growth that judges can totally get an idea of how far you've come. And then collaborate with people who can give you the winning edge. So, we can help you with that, or we've given you lots of options. The best feedback I have from clients, which is often, is, oh my God, you've made me sound amazing. And I always go back to that, that's because you are amazing. And some people don't even realize just how amazing they are until they've been through the whole process, reflected on it, read the application and gone, I really am doing all those things that I didn't even realize. I hadn't stopped and thought about it because I'm just so busy in business or so busy achieving my goals and things like that. So it's great, the whole reflection process, and as Michael said, very rewarding. So I'm going to make you guys an offer over email to actually get the awards list I was talking about on my website, not for $29, but for free. So watch out for that within the coming days. I'll get it to you before Easter, with Easter being Friday. So give me 24 hours and I'll distribute that. But at this point, would love to hand you back to Michael to just make any final statements, Michael. And then I'm thinking we should see if there's any final questions as well.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything that we wanted to talk about. Yvette, Yvette is available by email. Our general email address at the Stevie Awards is help@stevieawards.com. We're several people monitor that email address. We're pretty responsive. So if you have any questions after this webinar that you haven't thought to address, please do address them to us. But why don't we just finish up by taking any questions, last minute questions that people have.
Yeah, I'm just putting us back on the screen and getting rid of the other one. So be warned, you're back on screen on your comfy couch. There you are, and I'm coming back as well. Any questions, guys? Great opportunity with Michael here. You're hearing it straight from him, not the website.
So there's a question, any specific timing to be a judge? That's a good question. Now, we have an open application process on all of our websites, so you can apply to be a judge at any time. For example, the judging for this year's Stevie Awards for Women in Business won't open until I think it's the end of August. But you can apply right now to be a judge for that particular program. And once August rolls around, Ann White, who manages our judging process, will start to look through the applications for that program. And if she wants to accept your application, she'll assign you to a jury and get in touch with you. So there's really no specific time frame for applying to be a judge. If you look at the calendar on any of our websites, each of our programs has its own website with a calendar on the homepage, and the calendar lists the judging window for that particular program. So if you're interested in judging the Women in Business Awards this year, for example, you can look on that homepage at stevieawards.com/women, and you'll see when the judging window is to see if that's going to work with your schedule.
So Jen, it looks like you're pretty keen to get involved, which is fantastic. Anybody else? Last chance. Everyone else will just have to hear it on the recording, and maybe they'll get. Do you mind? Shall I feature I might put the website in the text so they know where to go to look up more for Stevie Awards. That would be a good thing to do. Oops, I missed the dot. I'll do that again. So it's slower. So every single one of the Stevie Awards programs is listed on that site. And as you'll see, they rotate through the year as to when they're open and closed. And even if they're closed, put your name down on the list so that you're first to be notified the moment they open in the next round. And you'll be sent an entry with all the information.
That's a good point, Yvette. If you are interested in potentially entering any of our particular programs, you'll find a form on each website to request the entry kit. And when you fill out that form, you're simply going to go on an email distribution list, which you can unsubscribe from at any point. So, right now, if you were to request the entry kit for the Asia Pacific Stevie Awards or the International Business Awards, which are both accepting entries right now, if you fill out the form on those homepages, you'll be emailed the entry kit, which is a PDF brochure, instantaneously. But if it's for a program we're not accepting entries for yet, like the Women in Business Awards, which won't open for entries until May, you'll go on the list, and when those entries open in May, we'll email you the entry kit.
Cool. Well, there's no further questions coming through. You've got the link. You've got the information. Hopefully you've got the motivation now too to give this all a go. And as I said, we'll send this recording out and that hot offer I made within 24 hours. So you can always rewatch this. Please feel free to share it and refer your friends to the opportunity to enter business awards, and particularly the Stevie Awards, which, having worked with Michael for 10 years, they're a great bunch of people, everyone on the team, and always very helpful if there's ever any issues. So I'm here to support you here in Australia and New Zealand time zones, and I'm only a phone call or an email away. All my details are also on the Stevie Awards website. So thank you for joining us, Michael. Must be getting late there. Must be ready for bedtime.
It's time to go to bed now.
Pardon me?
It's time to go to bed now.
Well, good night. That was a good night story for you. A webinar tonight.
And thank you all for tuning in today. Hopefully this was helpful to you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Organizing this.
No worries. All right. Well, onwards and upwards. Here's hoping we get lots of people now aware of the Stevie Awards and coming along to the events as well. Thanks so much.
Okay. Good day.
Good day and good night.